when we think about distribution, we think about like, how do we help not just the filmmaker and just putting it onto different platforms or distributing to an audience. The idea of distribution is not putting it onto platforms. The idea of distribution is how do you get it into the eyeballs of viewers. That's the idea of distribution. I mean, what are your thoughts about something like that, Liz?
I mean, first of all, they have this perception that Tubi is the biggest paying streaming platform. That's not true anymore. And also, well, it's the fact that it's a recognizable platform that everybody knows. You can tell your friends, my movie's on Tubi or Roku or, Amazon or whatever. But that doesn't really ensure other people outside your circle to watch it. There is not a discovery platform. It's just a place where you can put some content on. And usually, we have to go through all the steps of distribution, aggregators. There's a lot of middlemen behind a movie. So it's not really like a visibility source. It's mostly the place where everyone goes to because it's easier.
Yeah, for the longest, I always think about distribution as, distribution is such a boring topic, It's really, really like boring topic, but it's so needed, and it's so confusing for most creators. And I also think like even distributors sell, even like when I go to AFM, even the people that like the sales, they are confused what distribution really is, in my opinion. I give you an example. I'm talking to one of my friends that's from Pressman, and I said, oh yeah, we got a distribution deal, and we talk about we're going to. I'm not going to name distributors' names, right? But we got a distribution deal with XYZ.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and they said, Quad, that's not distribution. They're just a sales agent. They're the one that's taking your content and taking it into a platform so people could watch it. That's being an aggregator, or that's being a sales agent to the platform. The platform itself is the distribution. And then I was like, oh, that's what distribution is. And I think a lot of people use this, they mix and match distribution in confusing ways.
Because it's a whole ecosystem of the stuff that's happening before you can consider you are distributing your movie. And the sales agent usually works with an aggregator. Like there's no sales agent that has enough content to supply to a platform. And that's the way you make relationships with the platforms. Like with Tubi, for example, or Roku, they ask for a certain number of titles. And even Amazon is hard to get just one single movie or 3 movies every 3 months or something like that, which is usually what a sales agent has. So it takes more than that to form a relationship, and that's why they use an aggregator. So that's someone who can actually deliver 10 titles every week or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I kind of want to, for this session, I want to kind of go over what we do in distribution as Sutudu TV. This is the Sutudu TV channel on YouTube. This is what everything's gonna be playing at, and I'm thinking we need to educate people of what this is all about. So I want to cut over to this one, and this is like this is our thought process when it comes to what we think about distribution. So this is product. This is what filmmakers create, right? And then this is the finance piece of it. And then obviously marketing, distribution, and control platform. This is where we live at, right? The marketing, distribution, and control platform. And the filmmakers have to understand that the product and the finance is where they live at, right? And then at the bottom of here, we got the Sutudu monetization model. And we got theatrical, sponsorship, product placements, Blu-ray and DVDs, TVOD, SVOD, AVOD. We call it catalog buyers because that's kind of like that is a business by itself. And then what it means to be continually monetizing your own content. So some people make a movie and they go straight to Film Hub, right? And I guess the question is Film Hub distribution or is Film Hub an aggregator?
Is an aggregator.
Absolutely, right? And then so what filmmakers are doing is they're going to a sales agent to for the sales agent to give it to an aggregator to get it to someone like us to distribute it.
Exactly.
See the
We are
problem?
direct route. Yeah,
Yeah.
of
So we're
course.
like and and then and in between all this, nobody in that group is marketing your movie aside from the distributor, which is the platform.
Because it's because of the same thing I told you. Like they have over 10 titles to supply to a one platform. So imagine how many titles Film Hub, for example, gets like weekly. There's no way anyone's gonna care
Oh,
about
we could
one
market that
filmmaker.
stuff, right? And
There's
so
no
so when you think about it, you're right. You're 100% right. Sales agents or aggregators, they're obligated to push out 4 to 10 titles a month to platforms like us, like Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and there's like 20 plus platforms, 50 platforms out there, and more. And they're obligated to put that out because that's the promise that they have with the platforms, right? And if they
yeah.
don't, they lose the credit or the scoring, and they let someone else in the place to get the content. So nobody in that side of it is marketing your content. So that becomes a big problem. Like I could tell you this, Liz, I would guarantee you that you put a movie out there and you don't ever talk about the movie, it's never gonna get seen.
Of course not.
That's what we could promise, right? But we could also promise that if you actually put some marketing time into it, like telling people about it, doing whatever you think is gonna be, that's a whole different conversation. But what we just getting people aware that your movie does exist, people are gonna know about the movie and people are gonna watch the movie. The question is, what's your bandwidth and how much time are you putting into your marketing, right? And it costs a lot of time, just like someone has to pay for that type of stuff.
Even I will say that this starts even before making the movie. That's when you start to
That's when you
building
start
your
marketing
audience.
it, right? So I kind of want to so that's kind of marketing. That becomes a different conversation that we want to talk about. Now the next part is obvious distribution. That's us, and then you want to be able to distribute into a controlled platform, which is not really existent right now. Aside from us, like just think about it. For a controlled platform, over here, we are talking about now. If you are going straight to Tubi, can you control your content on Tubi?
No.
Can you control placement? Can you control the placement of where your title is going to be at on the homepage? Not really, unless you pay for it. Maybe if you can even talk to them about it. Can you control the timing of the release? You don't even know. Because sometimes what ends up happening. You put onto look. I have all the respect for Film Hub. We love Film Hub. But when you put it into these platforms, what ends up happening is like we'll let you know when we release it. There's no timing. There's no some of them might have a scheduled date, but some don't. And so all of a sudden it just appears on the platform. So so filmmaker doesn't even have a way to premiere that title digitally or properly.
So for example, on Amazon, this is like something that's been going on for the last couple of years, that they can't really tell you when's your Amazon release, because Amazon will like not pass you on QC or something like that. And you don't know when they're actually going to put it up. So it's really, really
Right.
hard.
Yeah, and then
And
there's
most of the
quite a few things that comes
marketing,
along with it, right? If you're going through like a film or aggregator, it goes through them first, and then it gets passed down to the filmmaker. The filmmaker has to do the fixes, and then it go back to Film Hub or whatever it is, and it goes back to the
the long,
platform.
long process.
Yeah, and ring around the rosy. It just keeps on going, and that's the reality of it. In this, but that's okay. I mean, that it's absolutely right. We seen so many bad films, like films that are coming to us, and nowhere close to anything professional. Right, sound is
Yeah.
terrible. It's all over the place. Nobody. And filmmakers has to understand that you're making a movie and you can't expect and for the audience, Is this something that you could watch yourself? Can your friends watch this thing with you? And the answer is no. you know eh, how
Go
does a
back.
platform help you?
Of
Like
course.
no amount of distribution or platform that is going to save you from a bad movie, right? Or a bad quality delivery of a movie. But that's a whole entire thing that needs to get discussed. But going back into a monetization model over here, then everyone should be gunning, in my opinion, when you make a movie, the money is really in the theatrical side of things, no matter what. That's what gets reported, right? Nobody reports how much you made in doing a minimum guarantee deal with anybody.
No.
It just doesn't work that way. But then if your movie can't get into theatrical, which is very difficult to do, and we're gonna have a conversation about theatrical in other episodes that we do. The next best thing is sponsorship. And I put this very high in the side of things where other people will put sponsorship either before or it comes in the middle or after, whatever. And sometimes sponsorship is not even in the conversation in the windowing. But in the Sutudu TV model, sponsorship is everything for us. That's where the real money actually comes in. And let's talk about that real quick because, first of all, like, how does sponsorship work, right? If like your movie is done, how does the movie actually get sponsored after the fact? You got to think about it like, you're talking about brands that have unlimited amount of money. A lot of them have it,
Yeah.
right? The ones that are doing 100 million plus a year, they have a lot of sponsorship dollars. They have a whole entire department designed to sponsor opportunities for people, right? And they usually go with the usual suspect with nonprofit organizations, activations, in going into events, and they just don't want to produce the event or they can't produce the event, so they'll put money into
Yeah.
it. And then they get a seat at the table, and they will spend a boatload of money just to get the name and recognition out there. And so most brands, they don't even think about putting sponsorship dollars into a movie because that's not a normal thing. That's usually like, how does this help me, right? But the
This
problem
is
about
basically what people think Tubi does. That they do. They do it. But it's
well,
not
they
like
don't
us.
because you don't get confused with sponsorship and advertising. That's two different things. Because what
Okay.
ends up happening with sponsorship is more about brand alignment and messaging with the film. So if you're making an environmental movie, who do you think you're gonna go? You're gonna go after nonprofits, things that about going green, energy companies that says, "Oh, I love the movie. I would love to sponsor and endorse the movie, and here's some money, so you get more money, so you get an awareness out there, right? So that you get, you
Right.
broker the deal, you make money on the brokerage of it, and then you got to use this money, and you got to let the sponsor know how you're gonna use this money to move things forward. But that money doesn't have to be returned. That money is given to you so you could move your film forward, right? And they understand that. And so, but if the filmmaker doesn't understand what a sponsorship deal is, they would never go after a sponsorship deal because they don't know what that means. They never even thought about it. They go after, hey, I need to raise money to make my movie. Okay. And then what? What are you going to do with the movie? Like,
Yeah.
and the buck stops there. Oh, I'm gonna put it through the film festival. Okay, as a sponsor, they're like, okay, so if I gave you money, how do I get a return on it? Doesn't mean money return. A sponsor would say, okay, so am I gonna go to the festival with you and you're gonna name me? What are you offering,
Right.
right? And typically a filmmaker is not going to put the logo of a brand in the movie itself, right? That's more like a product placement or whatever it is. It could be kind of considered a sponsorship deal, but it's not. It's considered like more like product placement or logo placements, right? um so so to tell you what sponsorship really is about the packaging. So a lot of what filmmakers don't understand is that the packaging really matters. So when you're doing, like, say you're doing a release of your movie, you want to put out, like, and you're doing like a premiere release, like a red carpet. A sponsorship deal would be bring the sponsor in. They get to be a part of the step and repeat with their logos. They get to have their own tables, so they could, you give them a seat at the table. Maybe they get to host a panel. They get to talk about their brand. Before the movie plays, is a shout out to the brand, saying that, I just want to let you know this is sponsored by, Coca-Cola or something like that, or Feld Entertainment or whatever it is, right? And then they get to say their 5 minutes about what they do in front of an audience of 500 people that's watching the movie, something like that, right? And so it's how clever you want to package it up. That's a sponsorship deal. And filmmakers, like, look, if you're gonna go do a film festivals or you want to open your own screenings, the sponsor could technically help you open up screens.
It's
How
actually
much is the
easier.
full? How much is the full wall screen? $800 or something, or something like that with AMC, something like that, right?
Have like three screens or something.
Yeah, three screens, something like that. Have the sponsor pay for it, right? The sponsor could pay you. Let's say they give you $5,000 to run that. More than enough to launch your screens, right? You buy all these seats, whatever it is, and now you got to put an event together. You got to promote people to come to the theater to watch the movie. That's a sponsorship situation. So it doesn't always have to come back from the investor's pocket for that. So, so a lot of filmmakers kind of miss the bucket on sponsorship opportunity. And for us as Sutudu, I don't want to make this conversation too long. We're gonna end on this note over here, is that, and this, as you can see, if I was to go back to this, there's a lot to talk about, right? I got to go back to every single square box so we can have that conversation. But for the purpose of us, what we're doing over here, I'm gonna end that sponsorship because that's the key word of what Sutudu TV actually does for the filmmakers. We go out and we look for, even after your movie is done, we go out and we package up sponsorship deals. So then we build, brand and visibility awareness to films, but technically to the brands. And we use the films as an engine, the driving force to get the brands aligned with it. And what we do with the filmmakers that's different from everybody else is that we allow filmmakers to partner up with us. So we don't call it distribution, where it's distribution service. No, we call it as if you're a serious filmmaker, you're coming in with us as a partner, as a filmmaking brand partner, where we work together in getting brand deals. And then we package your film up, so we create awareness for your film. So if you made this beautiful romantic comedy, right? Shot really well, whatever it is, and there's several possible viral moments that your film could have. We could package that stuff up with a brand, and then we could launch this stuff together, and we're doing activations together, right? And to a brand, it's attaching their brand to an art form which they love. To a filmmaker,
Yeah.
they get to make money out of it. And to us, we get to use brands money, sponsorship money, to drive visibility back to the film itself. And that's something that people don't do. And that's what we do. Because you know why? It's a lot of work. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes to be successful. A lot of films are, look, like, I wouldn't call filmmakers are lazy, right? It's just that they're filmmakers. Their job is to be a filmmaker, right? They're not sponsorship finders. They're not salesmen. They're not marketers. They're filmmakers,
Yeah.
right?
But
And we don't expect them to do that type of work.
that's why they partner with people like us for this type of thing. Because they just want to create and continue to do their work, but at the same time, they want visibility and actually see some money out of it. So
Yes, of course. Yeah. And I would even argue if filmmakers actually really want to see money out of it. Because the way they act, they act like they're done with it, and they move on to the next movie, and they and hope and pray that money is made, and then oh, sorry, investors, money was never made, and we never really put any effort into, like, real effort into trying to get that money back.
some filmmakers actually finance their own movies, and I've heard this before, like multiple times from different filmmakers. They just want to do the movie because it was like a dream, and
It's
that's
a
all.
dream,
So
right? Yeah,
I get
and so
visibility. I
yeah,
don't
and
get
that
it.
that's a different conversation by itself, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? It's art, it's a message,
Yeah,
it's an ability, because they make their money elsewhere, right? Whether they're in real estate, whatever profession they're in, they have enough money saved up, and they go and make something that they've been dreaming about, and is an itch they can't scratch, and they're trying to get that, that completed and fulfilled, and then and hopefully they're mortgaging a house. That's all.
but
You
I've
know.
seen obsession level type of films that are really really good independent films, and they don't have visibility because they didn't follow the path to gain that visibility to build that audience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, what is the path today, right? And I think that's this is more like this is could be argued. I really don't think there is a path to success. Me coming as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur, I think that the path to success is one thing: work freaking hard and do things that make the most sense. Because
yeah,
every waking minute that you have in your life, and you don't work towards making the film better and getting visibility on the film, it means that it's just sitting there and collecting dust, and it's not doing anything. Like, it could be on Apple Store, it could be on Apple TV, but you never told anybody about the movie. Nobody's gonna go and search and watch it because it's not gonna be on the homepage of Apple TV.
yeah. They
It's
don't
not.
push those type of films. You see the usual Hollywood films mostly.
Yeah. Right. But look, realistically, a lot of films are not good either.
Yeah,
And to each their own. And sometimes, you could put you could put a lot of money in marketing, and it never goes anywhere because there was never a product in the first place. Like, if your movie is not visually shot really well, the sound is terrible, and the story's not good, and the story's not executed well, it's literally the same thing as, you go to the store and you buy a bad product, and are you gonna keep using it? And no, you're gonna throw it away, you're gonna find something new. Nothing different when
yeah.
it comes to movie making, right? Unfortunately, that's the way it is, and nobody wants to hear about that. But we're here, and I'm being very realistic to people and said that's the reality of it. And it's a hard truth. But I think that the filmmaker needs to kind of like say, look, now, if you have a great product, and you have a great product, and then you're surveying and your friends, the cold audience, obviously all your friends are gonna say it's a great product because they don't. Most of them will just want to support you, but when you go to the real markets and everyone tells you it's really bad or it's really good, you should listen to them. And then that's where you have to make a decision. Do you want to continue marketing the movie, keep spending on the money, or do you call it a day and go out and try to make another product? And that's what that is, And so that's kind of like where we're at. In I think it's a very different conversation. Nobody really has this type of conversation online, and I think I want to have more, I guess, more transparency on our thoughts about this, and moving forward. And we would love to have creators have that conversation and join us and argue on how things work here, because as a
This is
network.
a,
Go ahead. Sorry, Liz. Go ahead. Say again.
you guys don't know this, but this is how Sutudu was born, out of wanting to know what is actually a distribution path.
Yeah, I mean, like, for filmmakers that don't know, and I could have opened up with some introductions, but we're just kind of shooting from the hip at the moment, and this is as raw as it gets. Um, it's my background is that I've done 5 feature films. My first movie was Walt Before Mickey. It did okay. It was Netflix global distribution and everything else. Netflix for 4 years. It's all over Latin. It tested in Latin America really well. And then it was brought in. It was limited
America,
theaters.
at
Yeah,
least
we
you
have
guys are
hundreds of millions of. If you look at it, we have hundreds of millions of views of Walt Before Mickey in Latin America.
Latin America is such a hard territory to distribute. If anyone has ever tried to distribute in Latin America, you will know that it's hard to tap into this territory for multiple
Really,
reasons. Yeah, it's really hard. So the fact that it's there says a lot
really. Oh,
of
that's
how.
interesting. We tested it in Latin America first, and it did so well in Latin America that Netflix bought it for 750K in 2016, for Northern America, and the license was there for 4 years. So it was way easier to get into Netflix back then. So that's nothing to brag about, really. At the end of the day, at the time, um, I did it. Man, we're about to go into a different conversation over here, but at the time, it's like I don't think about I didn't even want to be on Netflix at that time. I thought Netflix was just another streaming platform. I wanted the movie to go a whole different direction in monetizing because I didn't understand. I'm ignorant to the business. I'm just being an artist.
It was your
But
first movie, so
that was my first movie, and you get punched in the face, and that's a whole different story to get into. But I've done 5 feature films. I did Jose Feliciano, Vanilla Ice, and then we did Bezos. That did okay, and then we did A Christmas Cowboy. That's my last movie. But now we're at the point of slating, 10 plus movies and more. And as a network ourselves, we don't give a damn about selling it to a different network. We care about putting on our own network. We care about building brand partnerships, and we care about monetizing and bringing viewers into what we do over here. And so that's that's what I care about at the moment. I care about making good shit. So our audience and the cultivate our new audience, that they're gonna like it, and we could build our own fan base. And at the same time, that's just me. But then we want to work with filmmakers that care just as much as I care about my own work, and they want to work in making their movie successful. And if you're an artist just like me, because I've probably done more feature films than a lot of other filmmakers have done, but you have that ambition, and that we're here to be super honest with the filmmakers and really keeping it real. No sugarcoating it. And you don't want to hear the facts, then don't talk to us. But you want to hear facts, this in the real world, then absolutely come to us and talk to us and be on a network, and then get slapped around and just know how this business works. Because the way the business works in other areas where, oh, I heard that you go to Cannes and you go and then you could sell your movie like Obsession for $14 million. Yes, yeah, 0.001% could get to that place. But I'm sorry, if you didn't make an Obsession, you're lucky. I mean, it's really lucky to get that type of, it's one out of, it's an anomaly, and you can rely on the anomalies to build success on your content. You really
and
can.
actually, the distribution of Obsession doesn't like doesn't work how they think it worked. Like the filmmaker didn't actually see all the money that Obsession earned. Like
Right.
I feel like everyone was. I don't know if you see this, but everyone was saying that the crew on Obsession didn't got paid enough because it was an independent film. Even the lead actress, she got paid like nothing for the level of exposure it
Right.
got. So it goes
Well, wait,
back
look,
to
look, that's a whole different thing. I mean, we could keep
that's a
on
whole
going for
different
5 hours straight. But
like
look,
to the
this is what I think about Obsession, and this will be
the
clipped, okay?
distribution company got all the money, not the filmmaker. So
Yeah. So
it's
first of all, Obsession was bought for $14 million by Focus. That's number one.
yeah,
And that's once they own the movie, that's in their hands of things, right? I don't
everything
know what
has
kind of deal that the
that.
producers got from that movie for that, but that's a whole different thing, right? Focus could be giving the bonuses to the crew members if they cared about. They don't care. There's a bidding
Yeah,
war, and they bought the movie that way. The other part of it that they don't talk about is how much was the distribution to put it into all these theaters, right? I'm
in
sure
different.
it was tested first.
I mean, to this day, is still on theaters here in Mexico, for example. That it takes like a week per film. Obsession
Yeah, because
has been
they're
saying
banking, right? So
over a week.
distributors, and I don't think even most people understand how theatrical distribution works, and that's something
Yeah,
that we should be bringing in.
that's another.
Theatrical. That's a whole different talk. We got like 8 different talks, Liz. Oh, in this one conversation, I'm trying to end it by sponsorship, and we keep going. We just keep going. Um, you know. But guys, look, it's I'm gonna end it because we could keep on talking about it. What we're gonna want to do is this conversation is a recorded conversation for YouTube, but we're on Discord. You need to join our Discord. The link is gonna be in the link below in the description of our YouTube. Come join the Discord. We're gonna have we're figuring out when we want to do our talks, and this type of talk that you see between Liz and I will happen with a lot more people in the voice and maybe whatever it is. But we're figuring it out. But the idea is like, we just care about the conversation at the moment. We want to keep it raw. We want to have this thing the way it is, but just let you know that this is the first one that we're doing between Liz and I, and just letting you guys ever know, Liz believed in Sutudu before a lot of other people has, because we didn't have Sutudu TV. She joined based on vision, and love her for that. But now we're here. We're here. We're letting other people know, and and I'm not giving any grudges for people that turned me down, but we're here, and now we're at the place where we're going to show some love. We want to support creators, but we want to be realistic about it. And if you can take on the realism of what we have, then there's no business being in our community. And we're building a community of realistic people, and people that are going to shake and move the industry forward. And that's what we're about right now. And we are doing absolutely that.
Yep.
Yep. So with that, I just letting everyone know this is a raw conversation, and I think there's a lot we need to have more of this, because I see a lot of YouTube stuff and it's very polished out sometimes. And this is not about going viral. This is about discovery. So you discover onto this, I wouldn't know if this is considered a podcast, but let's say it is a podcast. It's a branded podcast, massive branding
Yeah.
around this thing. It's we want to do more of it. We want to test this out, and if it doesn't work out, we'll move on to something else that will be around discussions. And so we're just kind of testing these out, and hopefully you guys could join us on the conversation and grow this thing out. You guys like it, make sure you subscribe, comment, engage with us, join our Discord, because that's where it's at. It's we're trying to wake it, we're going to try to wake this community up. We're going to have a lot of topics on anything we want to talk about, but this thing over here needs to be discussed, and not many people are talking about it, and nobody understands it that well. And we're going to make this community understand how this all works. And I think I believe that if creators understand we're all swimming in the same direction together, we're going to move faster as a community and as an independent community together. So with that, any last words, Liz, before we hop off?
Yeah, you guys can ask literally anything. I feel like combining everyone's experience on distribution and filmmaking and all these other things, we have a lot of insight that we could give to emerging filmmakers and just people that never experienced distribution, that have really great movies that have no visibility. Because let's be honest, like distribution is like one of the most hard industries to tap into. Independent film is hard. Like, if you don't know someone, there's no way no one's gonna see your movie, or you are even gonna learn about how distribution works.
Yeah.
So we just want to give it away for free.
Yeah,
Give
this
some
is all
knowledge.
free. Yeah, this is all free. The traditional model is dead. Really, at the end of the day, it's not really dead, but it's dead the way you think about it. You have to approach it very, very differently.
When it comes to marketing and like actually having an audience, you have
Marketing
to
is marketing. Look, we want to have a conversation about marketing, and marketing is marketing. Marketing is a brand awareness. It's no different from opening up a coffee shop locally. It's the same concept, same approach, but branding is more important than ever today. There's so much noise. There's always been a lot of noise. AI is creating even more noise. But the beautiful part of what a film does is that it's the global market. You could
Yeah.
reach so many different people, but it doesn't mean that people are gonna buy your movie for $10. You know, it's not. You can't approach it that way. It's a whole different way of approaching. Unless you build a brand up, and like Christopher Nolan stuff, and it's like, here's my money just because you're Christopher Nolan, and you get the front seats of IMAX. Here's my money. You know, but you're not that yet. You don't haven't built up the name. You got to build up a brand, whole different type of conversation to have, and we need to have that conversation. And look, I know a lot about marketing because I run an agency for 2 decades now. We work with very big brands. I'm not going to mention here. And we help a lot of people, and it's just amazing that most people don't understand what people pitch on marketing is not marketing at all. And it's like, oh my god,
But
it's just a
as you
it's
mentioned,
just insane how it works. And marketing is not social media, guys. Posting on social media is not marketing. It's a tool for marketing. Okay, I want to end it.
okay,
Liz, it was,
we're gonna
uh, we're gonna keep it going.
thank
Liz, thanks so much. Make sure, guys,
you.
fun conversations, and hope to have more of it. And see you next time whenever we post again. I don't know when, but we're gonna try to do this at least hopefully once a week.